What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more Fall of the House of X. This time with the first issue of a new 4-issue miniseries tie-in called Xmen Forever. And what makes this issue so cool is that it connects some major dots from this event, like the formation of the Dead X-Men team, the origin of the two versions of Mother Righteous, and the origin of Sinister Cypher. And if you guys are behind on the Fall of the House of X and you need to get caught up to this point, I'll place a card at the top of the screen and a link at the end of the video to the playlist. But if you're ready to see how these pieces come together, then you guys know what time it is. Let's get it. So this story picks up with Destiny back in London in 1899. And she and Raven are there on a date, but Irene can't enjoy herself because she keeps hearing this whistling. And as the whistling grows, she begins to see Enigma. In her words, she saw a god. And then she begins to see visions of the events of Fall of X and Fall of the House of X, like the Mutant Massacre and the Trial of Cyclops. And it was in that moment that she'd understood what she'd learned 4 years earlier after Nathaniel Essex's death. That for beyond the grave, he planned to make himself into what Irene had thought of as some kind of clockwork god. And it worked, as she acknowledges that understanding this broke her. He was now at all times in none, and it was now a smear on her vision, seeing through endless eyes that would take 6 months for her to rebuild. But these visions were not a part of Irene's diaries, which led her to realize that they're from later on, after they built paradise on Earth. But how could there be a paradise with this God above us? And after 20 years from that moment, she decided to meet one of Essex's creations at a park. And she decides to reveal what she's learned to this clone. That Nathaniel Essex is dead, but he created 4 variants to pursue his goal to outlive a threat that he sees correctly from mechanical brains. And each of the variants believes that their path is the true path to victory. But this is a lie, and they're all but devices to funnel energy back to himself. He's constructed a digital ghost that would feed on the efforts of the variants and achieve something grander than godhood. Then she lets this variant know that he's just a variant left with an interest in mutants. And as Destiny continues to reveal more truths to this sinister variant, she acknowledges to herself that she thought it was safe to tell him, because her sight saw no immediate consequence. She was, however, mistaken, as she's now officially greeted by Enigma after he takes the life of this now tainted variant. Her sight was unable to predict him since he had come from outside of time to change it. She was helpless to him, as Enigma acknowledges to Destiny that he thought she'd spotted him at the Enigma Variations debut, which was that orchestra date that she and Mystique had gone on. But he continues that that particular tune was what he took as a name, Enigma, and that she should have never told that variation anything. And at first, Destiny begins to panic, but she quickly realizes one truth, that Enigma won't kill her. "I will not let you meddle," Enigma proclaims to her. "I am outside time. I am fundamentally safe. Nothing you do can affect me. I can crush you at any point." But Destiny knows that he's unsure of how that would affect things. And Enigma admits that this is all an experiment. If he makes a change, it shouldn't do anything, but maybe it will. And no need to take unnecessary risks. But it was far too early for any of his variations to learn anything. And what he just did to that clone, he can do to any and everyone. So basically, Destiny needs to keep her mouth shut, and he'll allow her to have a free run to Krakoa. But this just leads Destiny to realize that Enigma needs Krakoa to happen, which Enigma admits that he does. And he tells Destiny that they must be on the same side, though Destiny acknowledges that they aren't on the same side, just merely going in the same direction, which begins to amuse Enigma. But he exists outside of time. He doesn't need to predict the future because he's already been there. And he quickly checks Destiny when he tells her that he knows why Mystique leaves her, which leaves Destiny stunned. She definitely wasn't expecting that, Knowing that Mystique would one day leave her is a surprise in itself. Then she's approached by Mystique, who sees the fallen Sinister clone and asks Destiny what she'd said to him. But to this, Destiny only asks Mystique if she trusts her, to which Raven acknowledges that she does. "Then I beg you, don't ask again," Destiny replies. "I will tell you if you ever need to know, and we must hope that it never comes to that." So that in itself is a revelation to us as readers that Destiny knew of Enigma since the very beginning. But then we move forward in time to weeks before the X-Men's invasion of Earth, still in London, and Mother Righteous has just learned that she doesn't become the Dominion, that the original Nathaniel Essex became Enigma Dominion. And now, her animated voodoo-like mutant mannequin version of herself has been dropped into the white hot room with the rest of the mutants. And even worse, she quickly finds out that whatever happens to her other half happens to her too. So if one of them gets hurt, then they both do. And the same goes for if one of them dies as well. She'd originally thought that she'd be a god by now, so this wouldn't matter, but now she's screwed, as she pleads with her other self to beg for her life now. Then we transition to the white hot room after the attack on Jean Grey, and Destiny is now putting the pause on this Mother Righteous for creating a Dominion. Meanwhile, Exodus is not able to heal Jean's stab wound and insists that they get her back to the Krakoan Oasis with the hopes that Elixir can help. But before Hope can join them, she's got to handle Mother Righteous, and she cocks back on that little heater that we first saw in the Rise of the Powers of X issue 2, as Mother Righteous now begs to be spared. She can help, she tells Hope, that she's made her worst nightmare come to be. The man that she married and went on to the grave cursing is now a digital god. And the way that she can help is that she knows this magic stuff. She was the one that brought them there to the white hot room. And while half of her is there with them, the other half is in the real world. She can be their contact there, passing messages back and forth. And she can also find out about Mystique, which of course would appeal to Destiny. But while the other Mother Righteous is watching all of this play out through a Krakoan gate, she's met by Orbis Stellaris and Dr. Stasis, who both taunt her for never being able to achieve Dominion. But as Mother Righteous defends herself from her oncoming variant attackers, she's confused as to how they even found her. Though she doesn't get an answer before she's captured by Orbis. But as Stasis gets close to her to gloat at her failures, she whispers an enchantment, causing Stasis to turn on Orbis, freeing Mother Righteous. And as she escapes, she still wonders how they found her, or even got into this sanctum. They're not magicians. But Selene, however, is. And when Selene reveals herself, Mother Righteous attempts to hit her with that same enchantment that she just used on Stasis, but to no avail, as this is a spell that Selene recognizes as one that she used to use back in the day. And lucky her, she knows all the loopholes in it. Unlucky though for Mother Righteous, as Selene is easily able to put her down, and then as Selene begins to stalk her prey, Mother Righteous uses one of her orbs to escape. But she doesn't get very far, as we see that only 3 alleys over, she appears, cursing the spirit for not taking her farther, when she's then caught and captured by Charles Xavier. In a pretty sick looking display, might I add. And then Xavier tells her that you're coming with us. Us? She replies. Xavier, what are you talking about? You'll find out. Welcome to the X-Men, Xavier rebuts. Then later we see that Charles has taken Mother Righteous to no place and admits to her that it was the energy from her attempted ascension that led them to her. And since they were too weak, they leaked her location to Orchis. That way they could be there to capture her when she limped away from Orchis. And when she asks how it is that she's even bound like this without him being a magician, she's answered by another voice, one that she recognizes and immediately accuses of being with Orchis now. And we see that it's Sebastian Shaw that tells her not to be naive. He's only ever on his own side. And his side doesn't forgive or forget. And when Xavier contacted him about a plan to capture her, he definitely wanted in after what she did to him. Then he insists that Charles remove this from his mind so it couldn't get pulled out later, just to be safe. And Charles obliges, although he's surprised that Shaw would care after his betrayal of Krakoa. But Shaw tells Xavier that he was always a rat. And Charles knew it. But Krakoa didn't fall because he betrayed them. He betrayed them because Krakoa fell. And then he tells Charles to destroy Mother Righteous and take away everything that made her proud. To which Charles admits that that isn't the goal, but it will be a byproduct. And now Charles says that they're ready, and he activates a clone. And his Mother Righteous is still wondering why again with the plural. It's revealed that it's the remaining Sinister from within Charles, now resurrected into a clone of Cypher's body, with the real Doug trapped inside of a hibernating Krakoa. And now this Sinister Doug has Cypher's gift to understand all languages. And the first thing this Doug does is transfer the consciousness from the trapped version of himself into a new Doug body, and then he gets rid of the other version. Then he's able to lower the no place away from reality. Then he asks Mother Righteous what she's able to do for them. And she leaves Charles in complete shock when she says that she knows where the missing mutants are. Because after the mutant massacre, Xavier thought they were all dead. Then he asks if she's able to speak to them, which she can, as we then see that back in the White Hot Room, that version of Mother Righteous notifies this team that Charles has captured her other half and wants to talk. And as Hope tells her to let them know about everything, them on Atlantic Krakoa, Phoenix dying, and Jean bleeding weirdly, Destiny jumps in and stops her and asks what's happened to her wife. So Xavier searches for Mystique and expects it to be difficult to find her since she has such a slippery mind. But he finds her easily and she's back on Krakoa. But when he reaches out with the message from Irene, Raven doesn't want to talk to either Charles or Destiny. And when Mother Righteous gives Destiny Raven's response, Destiny immediately realizes that Raven must have read the book. And it's here where Charles puts together his plan to make No Place a safe haven as they find a way to kill God, which we can see coming together in Rise of the Powers of X and Dead X-Men. And then weeks later, we can see a now revamped No Place as the plan is now in motion and the X-Men have begun their assault on Orchis, as Destiny believes that it is this large-scale chaos that gives them the best opportunity for Enigma to be distracted, and any later would be too late. So we see Charles send Rasputin 4 off to the events of issue 1 of the Rise of the Powers of X. And then he looks to Rachel and expects for Rasputin's mission to fail, so he needs Rachel's team to be ready. To which she lets him know that they're resurrected and they're being briefed now in the White Hot Room. Then Charles thanks Rachel for joining him, as she is essential for this plan to work. And Rachel lets him know that she gets it. If Jean's out of action, then there's no other choice. Who else are you going to have on your team if you're planning to resurrect the Phoenix? As Sinister Doug now acknowledges to Xavier that she's not going to like the full truth of this plan. And Xavier agrees. But if they live, then he'll live with that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the issue. What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more Fall of the House of X with X-Men Forever #2. And this issue is just too dope, guys. And it answers a lot of questions left by the last few issues. And what's been cool about this X-Men Forever series is that it fills in the gaps. Some in-between stuff from the other series better explained. And if you didn't catch the first one, then I'll place a card for you at the top of the screen right now, and a link at the end of the video. But it was in that last issue that showed us how we got the Sinister version of Doug Ramsey. We also got an explanation for the two versions of Mother Righteous and how she came to be under control of Xavier and his team. And with some of the other Fall of the House of X series showing Xavier as a villain of late, this issue does a really good job of breaking down more of his plan. Plus, we got more of that Phoenix resurrection happening here too. So if you guys are ready to find out why Xavier has made a deal with the devil, and what else happens during that Phoenix resurrection from Rise of the Powers of X #4, then you guys know what time it is. Let's get it. Now, this issue runs concurrently with the Rise of the Powers of X #4, so hopefully you've read that issue or at least watched that video before this one. So when this one starts off, we get the White Hot Room at the same time as when Mother Righteous is freed by Xavier in Rise of the Powers of X #4. And she's giving the mutants there an update on what's happening with her other self. That Sinister's dead, Xavier killed Rachel, and Xavier has freed her other self to help with Rasputin, who's also dead. But also, that Mother Righteous has figured out a way to safely dissolve this version of herself, and she's about to be up out this thing. But then probably one of the most comic booky type things happens next. As Charles Xavier leaves an imprint on Mother Righteous, and as this version of her dissolves, Xavier is able to speak with Destiny, Exodus, and Hope Summers through Mother Righteous's body. Then he tells them to bring Rachel back. She'll be furious, and rightly so. Give her whatever she needs to help Jean. And tell her team I'm sorry. They didn't understand the roads their words have led me to take. So now Hope's like, you gonna do it? And Xavier tells her that he doesn't believe they have a choice. He has to. And Destiny, meanwhile, is like, what about our deal? But Xavier can't do anything about that right now. In truth, he doesn't really think he should. The universe needs her with a clear mind, and she's gonna need a clear mind to survive Raven. But then, before the body fully dissolves, he tells them to bring back all the X-Men that died in Orchus's purges. Bring them back and lead them. Someone has to. My time has passed. And then the body completely dissolves. So now we got a bigger picture from that Rise of the Powers of X scene after Rachel Summers was killed, and that it was actually Xavier that had told them to resurrect everybody. So later on, after everybody killed by Orchus is resurrected, they all hesitate when it comes down to this very last person. And Exodus is totally against bringing this guy back, but Destiny fights for him. He is one of us, she tells Exodus. All of this is his doing. Even him suggesting we keep the fifth cradle in the Atlantic Krakoa means we can actually bring back everyone. Although that wasn't planned, but it was still his doing. But Exodus reminds her that right now they're all hiding from Enigma, and that's his doing also. So then Destiny tells him to consider this. If they bring him back, then perhaps Exodus can kill him again down the line, which gets a smirk out of Exodus. And since Destiny made Exodus laugh, Hope decides that they will go ahead and resurrect this last guy. And they resurrect Sinister. Then Destiny fills in everybody about the current situation on Earth. That Orchus is beat, but the AIs have made a move, and they've always been the true threat. Then Sinister adds in that he'd have known about it earlier if his brain wasn't messed with by Enigma. And Destiny replies that Enigma's aid to the AIs is the other problem. He will be making moves and he is absolutely unpredictable. But our advantage is that he is presently unaware of our plans. But that is unlikely to last. Then what she says here is important because she begins to tell them about Xavier's full plan. That he's joining the AIs for two purposes. First is to keep the mutants alive. The AIs are about to strike in a way to kill them all. As he collaborates, mutants will be spared, promised a pretty cage. However, Xavier will inevitably be used to kill humans. Secondly, but before she could finish with the second part of the plan, she's interrupted by Rachel Summers, who's mad as hell that Destiny already knows about this plan of Xavier's. And she asks Destiny, how can she do this? But then Sinister chimes in that, well, he does count 3 supervillains in the room. So Rachel then looks to Hope and asks what about her? But Hope responds that she's a soldier, not a hero. And this is war. There were always going to be casualties. For once, the humans are going to share the cost. So now Rachel is pissed and she's like, my team convinced Xavier not to throw away Krakoa by killing Moira. And they did, Exodus proclaims. They convinced Xavier that the dream of Krakoa was too important. So Xavier's dream is Xavier's dream no longer. The dream is the dream. Xavier is Xavier, and Xavier is gone. He is martyring himself for that dream, for a chance of a new Krakoa. He won't be alone in that. So wow, y'all, did y'all catch that? He said that Xavier is martyring himself. But then Exodus continues, and he asks Rachel, what would you have done to prevent your timeline where you were whipped like a dog to hunt your peers? Would you do what Xavier will do? Would you have gone as far as Bishop did? What are your limits, girl? Then Hope adds that it's already done. We make the best of what we can here. Maybe we're all wrong, maybe it's for nothing. But let's fight as hard as we can, as it's all we have left. So now Rachel starts to understand, and she asks what's the next move. Then Hope lets her know that Earth is under attack, and Earth Krakoa is under attack. We get all the X-Men we can and come back home. They're the cavalry. But you know the job. The reason why Xavier put you here with the trigger. Then after Rachel and some of the others leave out, Hope asks Destiny about that deal that she had mentioned with Xavier. And Destiny tells her that it's a long story. But the short of it is that Nightcrawler is her and Raven's child. And Hope is ecstatic to learn this news. And she asks how Xavier is involved, but Destiny doesn't give that part up and tells Hope that that's family business. And she's not going to tell her before Raven. But Hope is so happy for them. She was never able to meet her mom since she was killed right after Hope was born. And Cable's her dad in every way that matters, but she doesn't know who her actual donor is. But as Hope, Destiny, and Exodus all talk about getting the X-Men home to fight, one of the other mutants named Kafka overhears them. But when he hears this, he's like, the X-Men are going home now? What about us? And he makes a good point. These guys are all planning on sending the Warriors back home, but everybody else just got to stay there dead in the white hot room. That's interesting. But meanwhile, we switch over to Rachel as she stands over her mother, Jean Grey, when Prodigy walks into the room with her. He wonders if mutilating the Phoenix was a part of Enigma's plan. These Dominions are weak against the Phoenix, he says. Taking the Phoenix off the board while coming into existence is smart, right? But Rachel's like, no offense, but right now smart isn't what I need. This needs heart and faith. Being a Scotty, protecting the timelines is her area, but there's never been anything like this before. But Xavier's right, she says. She has to work this out, and she can only work it out from there. So Prodigy's like, well, what's your big-hearted, no-brain plan then? Then she tells him that it's a two-step plan, and the first part requires him. And now he's kind of freaking out, like, what are you doing to me? But Rachel tells him that since he was connected to the Mcron crystal, which we all saw back in the Dead X-Men series, that he has all those dimensions inside of him now, some of which have the Phoenix in them. So she's taking the essences of all those realities and imprinting them into Krakoa itself, like a blueprint, and then throwing it all into a pyre. So now Prodigy's like, you're gonna kill Jean? But she's already dead. This is Phoenix heaven and hell. What fire can burn Jean Grey? But Rachel tells him that she thinks she's got an answer for that. But it's really about what happens when they do. Phoenix is all about rebirth, but this is something more. She thinks the Phoenix is at the end of its existence. It has to be recreated, and it needs a lot to do that. You give a blueprint, but it needs to burn hotter than anything. Jean is already dead. We kill her. And killing someone that's already dead is a double negative, Prodigy responds. And Rachel adds in negative to positive, or paradox. So, infinite life. Phoenix. Or that's what she hopes, she says. And if not, there's a step 3, which is a lie. And she wishes that she could be there to put theory into practice, but it's time to go home and kick some ass. Then later, as Sinister is using Doug Ramsey's genes to get them all home from the White Hot Room, he wonders if this was always Xavier's plan, to murder him to get him there. But he works his magic, and since Atlantic Krakoa, which is where they all are, and Pacific Krakoa, which is back on Earth, are connected, he's able to persuade Krakoa to reach across space and bud. Then all of a sudden, the vines begin to grow and wrap up all of the mutants coming back home, and forms giant flower buds around them, and just like that, they're all gone. Then Hope, while remaining in the White Hot Room, approaches Jean Grey's pyre, and she asks, what fire can hurt Jean Grey? Jean's. And she uses a spark of Jean's Phoenix fire to light the pyre. But when she does, there's a loud scream as Jean yells, no! Then Jean asks Hope if she can hear her, and Hope tells her that she can and asks what's wrong. And Jean tells her that I feel clear. I was fragmented, but I've coalesced. I don't know what I am now, but I am. However, the Phoenix, it's scared. It's so scared. It's died before, but it never ended. It's fighting it. Can you help it? And Hope's response is, uh-huh. And then she pulls out that pistol that she created for Mother Righteous, and she cocks it back, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the issue. What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more Fall of the House of X. This time, with issue 3 of the 4-part X-Men Forever series. And if you've missed an issue, then I'll place a card at the top of the screen for you right now. And I'll put a link up at the end of the video as well to this and the complete Fall of the House of X event. But when we left off with the last issue of this series, Xavier had revealed his plan to the mutants in the White Hot Room, and Destiny had hoped that he could honor their deal. But Xavier had no time, and as part of Xavier's plan, all of the mutants lost in the fight with Orchis were reborn. Even Sinister, who had been taken out while he was imitating Doug Ramsey by Charles Xavier. And every mutant with fight training has been sent back from the White Hot Room to Krakoa, with the exception of Hope Summers. But upon attempting to achieve the plan of wiping out and then resurrecting the Phoenix got scared and resisted this process. So if you guys are ready to find out if the X-Men can mount a successful comeback in this fight against Orchis now led by the AI, and if the plan is successful to resurrect the Phoenix to battle against Enigma, then you guys know what time it is. Let's get it. So this issue starts off with the real Doug Ramsey waking up. He had been asleep and hibernating inside of Krakoa for all this time. And when he asked what he's missed, he was told that Krakoa has sensed the changing of the seasons, so he had to be kept safe. Then he's told about the Hellfire Gala, and that Krakoa had been on the run and was shot to pieces. But now that they're back home, Krakoa is letting Doug out. Then we switch over to Shaw Industries with Sebastian Shaw, and he decides to telepathically call out to Emma Frost in a pretty lewd way to make sure to get her attention. But he's got to be quick, because he's pretty sure that his assistant is an AI plant, and as he's communicating with Emma, the assistant sure enough activates from the unclear telepathic contact it detected. And now as Shaw runs from his rogue assistant that's now shooting at him, he tells Emma that he paid for hackers to leave some back doors in the Sentinels guarding Krakoa. It's just a single binary phrase, and Shaw gives it to Emma and tells her to pass it on to Doug. Then we switch back over to Krakoa and the fight on the island between the Sentinels and the mutants. And Destiny, meanwhile, now being back in the time stream, starts to get visions again and kind of freaks at the thought that she can't see a way for them to win. But nobody wants to hear that in the middle of a fight, and Exodus tells her as much. But then Doug gets Shaw's message from Emma with the backdoor code for the Sentinels. And initially, when Doug uses the code, nothing happens, and they think that Shaw betrayed them again. But Doug tries it again, and this time it works, and the Sentinels stop right in their tracks. Apparently, he had mispronounced the phrase. He skipped a 0. Then the mutants go on to take out the rest of these Sentinels, and Doug notices that Destiny is pretty much still going through it, and he tells her to cheer up because they're winning this. But she reminds Doug that battles are not wars. Then we pick back up with Shaw while he's still on the run from his assistant. And he's still in contact with Emma, who lets him know that the codes did in fact work and wonders what his angle is. But he tells her that if he dies, then she'll find that Krakoa's ownership has passed to her, assuming she wins. Somebody had to keep hold of the country for safekeeping. But he can't believe she trusted Fisk with the money over him. And good luck getting back any of that. So now Emma's like, are you saying you didn't really betray us? But he's like, oh, of course I did. But I kept my options open. But then he runs into a vault and he finds an X-gene compound and injects himself with it. And then he uses this new power to wipe out this AI assistant. Meanwhile, though, in the White Hot Room, Hope Summers is chasing after the Phoenix, who is now fled within the White Hot Room. She tells Jean that this was Rachel's plan, and she'd hoped it would be one step, but it's not looking like that. And there's more work for Hope to do now. But she realizes that if she's hunting the Phoenix, then she was going to need something a little bit bigger than that 9 milli she has. So she's got to find a way to get a message back home. So she yells out for all the remaining mutants left behind in the White Hot Room to help her by joining in a series of taps against the Krakoan roots. And as they tap out this message, Doug begins to receive it on the other side. It's an SOS, he tells the team. So once they get the message, Rachel Summers calls out to Emma Frost and tells her that they really need Manifold right now, ASAP. So Emma redirects the message, and then Manifold appears right before them. Then Rachel tells him that her request won't be easy, but they need him to get the rest of the 6. And then they need to try to get back to the White Hot Room. But first, Destiny requests that he get them Nightcrawler. So Manifold obliges and he opens a portal for Nightcrawler to walk through. And now this is the first time that he's seen Destiny since he found out that she was his mother. And his reaction is pretty pleasant. However, he doesn't come out of the portal alone, as he's followed by Mystique, who's pissed at finding out about all of this. And she steps out holding 2 guns aimed right at Destiny and then straight up opens fire on her. But of course, Destiny is able to get out of harm's way while Nightcrawler bamfs the guns right out of Mystique's hands. So Destiny can at least explain herself. And that's what Destiny does, as she tells them that before her visions only extended to Krakoa. In no timeline did she discover the truth until now. And it was when she returned to life and got her second set of visions that she saw timelines where they uncovered the truth. They had finally had a child, and it was Destiny's plan. She knew Azazel would ascend to power. Worldwide chaos, many deaths, including Raven's. So Destiny knew that she had to stop it. And now she doesn't remember how she had justified it to herself at the time, because that memory is locked away from her. But all she knows is what she saw herself say in those other timelines. That she knew Azazel would kill Nightcrawler if they didn't let him become an X-Men. She had to give him up to save him. And she had Xavier purge her memories. Raven chose otherwise though, despite being advised against it, and it jacked up her mind. So when you discovered it, why didn't you tell me, Raven asks. But Destiny tells Raven that there's a threat outside of time and space that has haunted her for a century, talking about Enigma. And revealing any of her new visions would hint at what timelines she had seen and bring Raven to his attention. But she wanted to make sure that if worse came to worse, in the end Raven would know. It would be Destiny's last testament. Then she apologizes to Kurt for his life, but right now she doesn't really have any maternal feelings towards him whatsoever. They were locked away from her. If any residual feelings had remained, she knew it would cause her gift to find the truth. They had to be gone, and she had to hide them from herself. This is what Xavier's Cyblock did to her, and he promised to clear it. That's what the deal was. But he's currently in the hands of the enemy. So hearing that gets Mystique ready for action. She's ready to go to Xavier, and she asks where he is. But Destiny refuses to tell her. If you go, you die. I see it, Destiny tells Mystique. But Mystique is a fighter, and she's not planning on moving in fear. And if Destiny's love is a cage, then she cannot live inside of it. She'll find Xavier with or without Destiny's help. She'll fight for them, even if you've surrendered, she tells Destiny. But Nightcrawler, meanwhile, is called away. They need him for this Manifold mission. But Manifold lets them all know that this will be more dangerous than ever, and they can't all make this trip. So Exodus steps up to the plate to take the journey since he can handle the dangers. And Nightcrawler offers him his Hope Sword, which surprises Exodus. But Nightcrawler tells him that putting his hope in other people's hands is the purest form of hope, which is kind of what it represents. And as Exodus crosses through this portal, he meets up with Hope Summers, and he pleads to her that it's not too late for her to come back with him and let someone else take on this burden, so she's not lost forever. But she responds that Exodus should be happy she's finally doing Messiah stuff and finally listening to him, but it has to be her to do this. But then she takes the sword from Exodus and then tells him to give her dad Cable a message, that he was always there for her. And she never knew her parents, but he was always her dad. But before she finishes that statement, that's exactly who shows up. Cable, who had just completed his Neocracy mission, and he came to tell her goodbye. Then she tells him that she loves him. And then she speaks with the Hope Sword, asking if it's alive, to which the sword responds that it is. And since she's not really a fan of swords, then to make her feel more comfortable, it shifts into a gigantic Cable-style gun for her. Perfect, she says. Then she calls out to Jean Grey, who tells Hope that the Phoenix is going to be hard to find. She's off into nothing. She'd rather lose herself than die. And Jean will do what she can, she tells Hope. And she can lead Hope and watch for trouble. But it's going to be Hope that actually has to do it. So Hope is ready, she says. And now it's time to hunt this big dumb bird. Just call her Daddy's girl. And she walks off in search of the Phoenix. Meanwhile, we finally hear from Enigma, who had been told the truth of the plan from Mother Righteous. And Hope was a great hunter, rebirthing the thing that could be a great threat to Enigma. Even worse, in the one place that he couldn't directly interfere. Of course, there are other places, in other timelines, he says, as he then shows up in Anchorage, Alaska, 9 months before Hope's birth. And he's here to meet with Hope's mother to talk about her pregnancy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the issue. What's up, comic book fans? And welcome to Comics Icons. Now, JJ, what they call me. And today, we got more Fall of the House of X. This time with the fourth and final tie-in issue of X-Men Forever. And if you guys missed any part of this X-Men Forever series, or this Fall of the House of X event, then I'll place a card at the top of the screen for you right now. And I'll put a link up at the end of this video. But in that last X-Men Forever issue, we saw Mystique prepare to go on the search for Charles Xavier right after Nightcrawler's botched family reunion. All while Hope Summers attempts to wipe out and rebirth the Phoenix. Unbeknownst to everyone though, Mother Righteous has already snitched on their plans to Enigma, who ended the issue back in time, exactly 9 months before Hope Summers' birth, as he was meeting with Hope's mother. So if you guys are ready to find out if Enigma is able to put a swift end to the X-Men's plans of bringing back the Phoenix to stop them, then you guys know what time it is. Let's get it. So this issue kicks off with Destiny and Pacific Krakoa. And as she's approached by Sinister, she can't help but to confide her nervousness in him regarding their current situation. No matter what they do, she still sees Enigma winning. So Sinister decides to tell her a story. One that he's not particularly proud of, he says, but once he constructed a model that could predict all of the actions of mutant kind. And it did well until the Phoenix came and burned his city to the ground. The point is, if the Phoenix plan works, no one will see it coming, including Enigma, including you. But this still doesn't change the fact that Raven is gonna die. No one gets it, Destiny tells Sinister. She wants to protect her, so she studied Raven's futures and she's seen Raven die over and over again. And I think I'd have to say that this is the ultimate in stalking. Like Destiny is the GOAT of stalkers at this point for that line. Congratulations, you played yourself. But Sinister tells her that he managed to study her Raven predictions with his Moira engine, and she constantly overestimates the chance of her death. In fact, by about 50%. Her math is likely thrown off by her sight being drawn to timelines where Raven dies. This is why love is a weakness, he tells her. So Destiny wonders why he's telling her this. But he tells her that everyone wants to take him out. He would do good to try to cut that number down. But eventually he's able to convince her to work to change their destiny, so she finds Raven before she takes off and tells her that she will help her find Xavier now. No matter what she sees ahead, she's gonna walk with Raven. She trusts her. And at first Raven is so pissed off that she doesn't even want Destiny's help anymore. But she eventually caves in and they decide to go save their family. Together. Then we pick up with Hope Summers in the White Hot Room. And she's got her Legion rifle now. She's an Omega level power manipulator and Legion's an Omega level power manifester. Together they can do anything. And now she's ready to hunt her some Phoenix. And as she chases after and fires at the Phoenix, Jean Grey telepathically tells her that she's given the Phoenix a target for its anger now. So good luck. Legion, meanwhile, lets out a war cry directed at his pops. But Hope doesn't relate. Her father Cable would have loved this. But Legion asks her about the other guy, the donor. To throw out a nice little FU to a pops that wasn't there will let out a lot of frustrations. But Hope's never felt anything about him though. She doesn't really care about him at all. She had the best dad in the world with Cable, but she does wish she knew her mom though. Then we pick up with Enigma in Anchorage, Alaska, and his meetup with Hope's mom 9 months before she's born. And he tells her that she's going to give birth in 9 months. And she'll be recovering from labor when men with flamethrowers arrive and take out her and everyone else in the hospital out of fear for her child. You'll die in significant pain, but I can save you from that. Now, mind you, this weird-looking dude just walked into the bar where she was chilling at and told her that she's going to give birth in 9 months and somebody's going to come in and wipe you out with a flamethrower right afterwards. And she's not even pregnant just yet, which is probably why she's at the bar. She's like, boy, if you don't get your ass out of here. But then he tells her that he knows because he went and he watched it for himself. Then he lets her feel what it felt like. And after she's experienced it, now she's like, what do you suggest? Simultaneously, the Hope begins to feel her head start pounding and she can feel that something is wrong. And Enigma tells her mother that at the moment when she's supposed to die, he can pull her from the timeline into a place very much like heaven and then place her back later after everything is over, whenever she wishes. He simply needs to be Hope's father. Meanwhile, in the white hot room, Hope is down and dazed, and now the Phoenix comes back for the attack. But Jean Grey is able to hold it at bay for a while and convince it to leave her alone. Then she asks Hope what's going on with her. She won't be able to hold back the Phoenix for long, but she's going to have to get herself together. But then Jean takes one look at Hope's face. No, this isn't you, she tells her. And then she flies off in a blaze, still burning with the Phoenix fire. I can stop it. I have to stop it, she says. All while Enigma tells Hope's mother that he will save Hope too. Right now, she's gonna die. Her friends are sacrificing her for their own gain. But you, as her mother, can protect her if you agree. So what do you think, he asks. And then we see Enigma's imprint on Hope's forehead as she asks Jean, what's wrong? That's crazy, y'all. But then we switch over to Charles Xavier in his cell on the Orcus base as guards come rushing in to attempt to move their prisoner. But there's a massive explosion as Destiny and Mystique are revealed, with Destiny demanding her memories back so she can love her son. And at first he stalls for a second, but then she tells him to hurry because death was coming in 10 seconds. So he unlocks the barrier that he put up, and Destiny immediately feels a rush of regret for abandoning her son. And then Nimrod shows up. And Destiny knows that this is the moment that she'd feared so badly, and she hates that she was right. But then Exodus teleports in and rescues the two ladies. Then we go back over to Alaska with Enigma and Hope's mom. But now Jean Grey pops up, and she's here to set the record straight on Hope's importance. And she tells Hope's mom, your daughter was sent by the Phoenix to make the Phoenix. That's what you choose to do here. She came to save mutant kind, but more, she saves everyone. And this guy's a monster, but Enigma rebuts that we are all monsters descended from monsters. That is inevitable. In the end, we all draw a circle around what matters and kill everything that threatens it. Krakoa was mutants finally learning the real lesson. In reality, all you can do is look after yourself. Then he tells Hope's mom to learn their lesson. Look after yours. You, your daughter. Join with me. But she's heard enough, and she tells Enigma that him thinking like that shows exactly who he is. Then she asks Jean what her daughter is like. And Jean tells her that she's fierce. She swears a lot, and she looks like you. She's called Hope, and her mom likes that name. What's having kids but an act of hope, she says. But Enigma can't fathom why she'd considered turning down his offer. Jean is selling you a pretty fantasy. But don't forget the reality, that you'll die in pain. And then he gives her another reminder of that feeling. Feel it, he tells her. Feel your skin flake and your throat tear as you try to find a scream loud enough. She is asking you to make a sacrifice for a world you will never see and a daughter you will never know. And the girl will still die. But Hope's mom is a firefighter. She runs into blazing buildings. She knew eventually she was gonna get burned. Then she sends him off, and just like that, he vanishes. So now Hope's mom tells Jean, let's go ahead and get this over with. But she's not going to sleep with her. But Jean assures her that won't be necessary. And then Jean Grey basically imprints the Phoenix onto Hope's mother, basically tying Hope's birth to the birth of the Phoenix, kind of creating a circle, and leaving Hope's mom with no memory of this. Meanwhile, back in the White Hot Room, Hope is now back, and as is the Phoenix. But Hope is able to use Legion to fire a huge blast, and the bird explodes, tossing Hope into the air and knocking her out. And then Jean Grey reemerges next to Hope's unconscious body, as the Phoenix now also reemerges, but from Hope. So now Jean Grey is like, let me make sure I understand this correctly. This is where you begin? And now the new bird tells her, yes, this is where it ends and begins over and over again. It was here that what was always in motion was set in motion. I am the Phoenix now and forever, an unbroken circle of fire. But now, if it's to fight Enigma, it must feed. Then we switch back over to Krakoa, and another Sentinel attack is underway as Exodus teleports back with Destiny and Mystique. And now that she's got her memories back, she rushes over to give her son the hug that he deserves, and she apologizes to him. But then in that moment, the Hope Sword is back with Nightcrawler, which leads Destiny to conclude that Hope is dead. But Exodus tells her no. That means Hope has returned to where she came. She is with Krakoa in exile. But Nightcrawler reminds him that all of the rest of the mutants are all still trapped there in the White Hot Room, lost forever. But Exodus tells him that they will return. The Krakoan age will come again, and we must all fight in this fallen world to prepare for their coming. But Nightcrawler admits that it's hard to still have faith after everything that's transpired. But if the Phoenix is really coming, then perhaps they have a chance. But when he asks Destiny if they can win, she still doesn't see a path to victory. But she doesn't expect to either. What she does see, though, is not very comforting. Meanwhile, back in the White Hot Room, all of the remaining mutants wonder what happens next for them, as they've been left behind. And who will be in charge now? And they all begin to complain. But eventually, Lil Kafka gets up and he yells for them all to shut up. He's heard enough. Then he tells them all that they have to be better. They are in charge now. And that means they're the quiet council. And that means they're going to have to be quiet and start listening. And as they now plan their new future, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the issue. So what did you guys think about this issue? And this X-Men Forever tie-in series as a whole? Did it answer enough of your questions? I must say that all of the Phoenix stuff is still a little bit confusing, but I'll ride with it. I'm just happy to see this final boss battle with Phoenix versus Enigma. That feels like it's building up to be one epic fight, and I'm here for it. But how did you guys feel about the Phoenix being tied to Hope Summers like it now appears to be? Does that explain or work for you? And how do you guys see this entire Fall of the House of X event coming to an end? We're getting very close to that last moment with only a handful of issues left. So hopefully this thing can wrap up in a way that makes everybody happy. But as always, if you guys enjoyed this video and this channel, and you'd like to support the channel, then you could do so by stopping by the Comics Icon store and picking you up some of this new merchandise, including the background music heard right here in this video, or by joining the Iconic Fan Club channel membership. And there'll be a link in the description to join. But with your membership, you'll gain access to weekly interactive live streams with yours truly, where we could talk about everything that's been going down in these issues, as well as ones that you'd like for me to go over in the future and other comic book news. Plus, you guys will get loyalty badges, member shoutouts, and up to 20% off of Comics Icon's merchandise from the Comics Icon store. And now we've got new tiers to the memberships as well, starting at just 99 cents. Now, how's that for an easy way to help out and support your favorite channel? Or you guys can donate to the channel with a super thanks. And if you're not able to do any of that, then you can still be a tremendous help to the future of this channel by dropping a like, share, and subscribing to Comics Icons for more icons in the comic book world. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. I'm out. Peace.